of it, make a good meal of it, stick to your old-fashioned beer. Now don't be afraid of it, drink till you're made of it. Now all together a cheer.
And once again, a good evening to you all out there in internet land. This is Mark McDermott, your one-take beer reviewer, also the guy who's on beeronut.com. And I'm ready to pop another beer from the cellar. And this is another one of those beers that I've been collecting and hoarding for probably too long. It's the 2010 edition of Goose Island's Night Stalker Imperial Stout. It's at 11.7% alcohol by volume. And I'm popping this now because it was a beer named in honor of the Night Stalker, Kolchak the Night Stalker, a well-remembered horror or supernatural show that ran on TV in the early 70s. In fact, the reruns are on TV behind me right now, but if I let the sound come in, then the owners of the show might come in and confiscate it or something like that, not knowing the fair use rules for that. So just be assured that I'm drinking this while that show is on, with Darren McGavin looking for apparently a black knight who's been beheading Chicago ward healers. So anyway, as I said, it's an Imperial Stout, and it's not been around much lately. I think they are spending a little too much time on the Bourbon County Stouts. Now, this is not barrel-aged, and as I said, it's from 2010. It still turns up once in a while. So we're doing a nice snifter glass pour of this. Let's bring this up here. Yes, I'm using the glass I got with my Rogue barrel-aged Imperial Stout, so ideally this should be an ideal bit of glassware. Not too much foam to that. Take a look, and we'll get another look at the label here for you. Still has a nice fizz and a very dark color to it. A rather deep brown foam, and not too much astringency that you might usually get in a very strong stout. Instead, it's a little bit of chocolate and coffee, as you usually get when they get pretty strong. I get notes of cherry and a little bit of vanilla off the top, which I might usually expect in a barrel-aged beer, but again, this is not barrel-aged. So it kind of just, it's settled very nicely, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. The label says that it's kind of a hoppy beer. I'm sure that the hops are totally gone from the impression here. But like I said, chocolate, a little bit of coffee, and I think there's some cherry to it. And it's got a nice warming alcohol, which is what I'm looking for right now, because even though it's in the 20s outside as opposed to the polar vortex weather we had previously, it just feels cooler. I think when it's a little warm, the furnace doesn't work as hard to keep up. In fact, I turned off the furnace because I'm here in the basement where it would be making a lot of noise, so I have to remember to turn it back on. But it has weathered into a very smooth yet strong Imperial Stout. I'm suspecting, even though they aren't saying as such, that there's probably a little bit of oatmeal to this, or not a lot, but it has a nice velvety character, maybe a little sweetness like some malt milk sugar in it. And I'm just glad I got to this when I did, because, like I said, I've got a few too many vintage beers that have turned out. I've had to drink off a couple of Imperial IPAs that went south on me, but this is done very nicely. It is the Goose Island Night Stalker Imperial Russian Stout. I have the 2010 vintage here, and I paid $10 for it back then. Hate to think what one would be charged for if it came back on the market. Begging your pardon. So while you're all out there, drink a beer if you can, and stay warm, stay inside. And this is Mark McDermott once again, your one-take beer reviewer and Beeronaut.com, wishing you and yours cheers.
Now